welcome back to Boys Bible Study. Very important announcement quick before we introduce our film and our special guest for the week. Very exciting news. We, Boys Bible Study, live in Los Angeles, we have gotten the opportunity to present a Christian film, film yet to be determined, pending trying to get the rights for distribution, at Los Angeles' preeminent repertory theater, American Cinematheque. Y'all, it's going down at the Los Feliz 3 Theater in Los Angeles. The date, Sunday, August 27th. The time, 10 p.m. Sunday, 10 p.m., famously the time people love going to see a movie. We will be presenting a Christian film. We're so excited for this opportunity. So look for an official announcement soon. American Cinematheque is working very hard to contact one of the distributors of these films who probably never, ever gets contacted to get
or may not exist anymore.
Truly.
Yeah.
So they
Just a phone ringing in an empty warehouse.
Seriously, yeah. It's like what's that short film about the guy who answers the phones? The Christian short film.
Yeah.
In like the parking garage. It's probably
is it called Dial Tone? Oh.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, it's probably like the scene from Dial Tone where there's just one angel alone in a parking garage, but he's like taking a bathroom break. And no, but they've been working really hard to get us a film to screen. We've given them lots of ideas, and it's really hard to wrangle these films. But big news. So we'll announce that soon. Anyone who's in the Los Angeles area, we are excited to watch a movie on film, like in a real theater with you all. So how exciting!
Remember the movies? Remember the theaters?
They're coming back. Repentance feels good in a place like this, y'all. We're back. It's Boys Bible Study. We've got a special guest and a special film today. But as always, I'm Ash here with my co-hosts,
Scott
and Julian.
And today joining us to help us give our long-awaited review of A Thief in the Night, a classic of Christian cinema. We have a very special guest, someone who we met online through mutual interests of these films, which is, a very select group anyway. And he's helped us research a bunch in the past couple months, and we're very excited to talk to you for the first time. Welcome, Jacob, a.k.a. Wormy.
Wormy, yes, thank you. I'm so happy to be here with the boys, ready to do Bible study.
Yup. Smoking in the Boys Bible Study room.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And Scott, it was Scott who you two started talking on Letterboxd, right?
But
That's where
I think because of that,
happens.
yeah. Did you message me first, Jacob?
I think y'all gave me some nice compliments when you found Elijah's Secret that I reviewed.
Yes.
Yeah. And from there, I don't know, I just started kind of following the wormhole in the podcast, and I found Scott first, and I don't know how. And yeah, the rest is history. We started flirting right away.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you have fantastic taste in movies. That's why this is happening right now. Impeccable.
Yeah.
Well,
that's true.
I mean, yeah, please.
Well, it's true. I like your list of anti-Catholic films made by Protestants was like, that was, after 3 years of doing the show, it was like, that is a genre that we have never, like an ultra subgenre of Christian films that we had never seen before. Yeah. And it was awesome to get into some of those.
That was a fun little thing. It was kind of like I discovered them like basically all at once. So, I mean, it wasn't like a huge like research feat, but yeah, that's a special group.
Elijah's Secret kicked so much ass.
Yes.
That was
amazing.
one of my all-time favorites that we've done.
I agree.
That I think I can say that is one of the movies American Cinematheque was not able to procure.
Oh, man.
Damn it.
People aren't going to know the truth.
Because it was definitely on my list.
I feel like you could can you not just directly email one of the guys in the movie and they would just be like, okay.
Oh man, they would love that.
I don't know. I'm not the one with the rights to these things trying to do the legal inquiry.
I don't know what the Vatican's up to. They could be trying as hard as they can.
Yeah. I mean, do they know what's going on at that screening?
Yeah, there's a Jesuit
Vatican II
in
is
the,
keeping it down.
yeah, there's a
Exactly.
Jesuit in the projection booth who's like pouring acid to destroy all the film reels before they can get into the slot.
The anti-pope's working as hard as he can.
It's the screening for happening. And yeah, we talked about a bunch of things since we all kind of met online a couple months ago. You gave us that huge scoop on the past of the Wright family.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Ashley
Huge.
Wright, which was, we uncovered some of their very interesting past, both as police commissioners in various small and pastors in various small towns across America.
Yeah, which by the way, I support them. Okay,
Same
like
here.
there's no compromise. Like I support them. Free Ashley, reinstate Ashley, reinstate them both.
She was fighting like child trafficking or something, wasn't she?
Yeah, something
Probably.
important.
That was like their whole thing was like they really wanted like a drug sniffing. Oh, it was drug trafficking that they were like really
Yeah,
Mhm.
that
A
one
drug
of their
dog.
their causes was they were trying to get a drug dog for their town of like 50 people that
where they were the only two cops.
they're right.
I wonder if they're it coincidentally like lined up with their kids wanting a pet dog.
I don't know. But no, I mean, we obviously like love the Wright family. Like our only interest in uncovering this is because it makes them like even more compelling and interesting as filmmakers. But but you know, why we brought you here today is because, you know, honestly, since we started the show, there've been a couple movies that our listeners have very kindly requested us to cover. And, you know, some we've gotten to, and this one has been on the most requested list for a while. And we just figured we're long overdue to finally cover it. This is really, I think, by anyone's account, a masterpiece of Christian cinema. It has a lot of cultural penetration. A lot of people in our generation know it and have feelings about it. And so we wanted to talk with Wormy today about A Thief in the Night, the most famous of the Mark IV production films.
Definitely.
And once again, directed by Donald W. Thompson, with his written with his co-writer Russell Doughton. Last week on a bonus episode, we covered All the King's Horses, another Mark IV film. But yeah, this is our week for us all and Wormy to talk about A Thief in the Night. So wait, Jacob, had you seen this one?
Yes, absolutely. This was one that before I ever even really cared about movies, my mom told me about because she had seen it. And she didn't care about movies either. It was just something that had crossed her like very fundamentalist past. And so I watched it at a young age, actually. And I've rewatched it since. It's very impactful, you know, very important movie.
Yeah,
I'll
super
say.
impactful. Yeah, I think it just has a way of sticking in people's minds. I mean, even like you and your mom's story is like evidence of that. It's like people from two different generations of Christianity. This movie was probably made like smack dab in between the generational lines. Like, you know, the film was made in 1972.
It was said to be like, you know, there's all this like rumors that keep being repeated online that this movie had been seen by allegedly like 300 million people at some point.
Sure.
You know, I don't know if you saw that, but there's been several articles and a woman wrote a book and mentioned this movie and about that. And it's like, I feel like it's just been this sleeper hit that's just kind of crawled through church gathering and like these like garage events and like church events and just so many people. It just really kind of spread through a whole generation.
Yeah. That the church tour circuit's very real. That's something I
Yeah.
learned with just doing more research on the Orman family. Like the Burning Hell made over $1 million and it did not play in
Yeah.
a movie theater.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You got to see the old posters they would post if you could find them. You know, they'd have like dozens of them for like different churches in different areas and stuff like that. They're all really awesome looking. They look like hardcore posters, like power violence bands.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, there really is an aesthetic crossover there. Both types of entertainment that can happen in church rec rooms and church basements.
DIY
maybe
shows
there's some.
are ultimately another type of DIY show.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And yeah, A Thief in the Night, lots of cultural penetration. Obviously we're going to want to talk about much of the strong imagery that makes it stick in people's heads that way. But first, I do want to see what background we can share on Mark IV pictures, because I was introduced to Mark IV about a year ago, and we mentioned him on our last episode, but good friend of the show, goes by the name Dante Fontana, contributor to Everything is Terrible, has made some fantastic video mixes, like party video mixes that I still watch all the time. But we did a live stream and he showed multiple of these Mark IV production movies, which I believe is that's a Donald W. Thompson venture. They're all his movies, and they're all filmed in Idaho. I'm sorry, they're all filmed in Iowa.
Yes.
And
Home of Slipknot.
Yeah,
It's not a coincidence.
Yeah, probably not. And there's a lot of them, and they have a very distinctive sort of visual style and presentation. Maybe we could start by talking about that.
Oh yeah, I just feel like it's like I didn't like coincidentally brought up power violence of the posters, but like I feel like this whole thing is like in a weird, soft, gentle way. It's just super raw, like, and just super like organic looking. And it feels like something that a super smutty horror movie would be showing in some ways.
No, I agree. The color palette, the sort of suburban rural setting, like a populous rural setting, that's captured very professionally. In some of their films, I mean, in All the King's Horses specifically, actors who would go on to be quite famous, especially Dee Wallace, was the star of All the King's Horses. So there is just a level of professionalism, yet rawness, raw emotion, and like you can tell that they're using just like local available resources to make these happen.
Right.
And that combination makes for a very striking visual style, I think.
Yeah, it's just like very, very regional. Like that's the other aspect that makes me feel like it's like hardcore. It feels like an Iowa movie. And like just the landmarks and stuff, and the people, they kind of had like their own little troupe of actors that they kind of made their movies with over and over again in the same area.
Yeah. Any other Mark IVs you've seen, Jacob?
I haven't really spent that much time with it for some reason. I've watched a handful of Donald W. Thompson's movies, but that's it. But I'm ready to dig in. Like I especially want to watch those like children-oriented movies. Those look awesome.
Yeah, for real. What ones have you seen, Scott? I know we watched Heaven's Heroes on the stream. All the King's Horses, of course, we watched last week.
Oh boy, I'd have to look at a list of Mark IV movies.
I know, yeah. It's kind of hard to tell from the titles. Here's one random thing. All of them have a helicopter in them. Okay. This guy has a helicopter. I love when you get to know a filmmaker and you're like, this is a guy who has a helicopter.
That's an Iowa status symbol.
Yeah,
I think
like
so.
Sam Raimi's car.
Yeah,
right.
That used to show up in all of his movies.
It's like how when the Wright family gets a Saint Bernard for a pet, then the Saint Bernard is going to be in all their movies.
Right.
If they get a horse, the horse is going to be in the movies, etc. And I have a feeling like, yeah, it's a good point. It's an Iowa status symbol. It's like a yacht of the sky is to have the helicopter. We saw quite a bit of that in this film. But A Thief in the Night, we are back once again in the realm of apocalypse movies. We at Boys Bible Study ended up spending a good portion of 2023 in the apocalypse zone. And how can you not if you follow Christian entertainment? I mean, it's got to be one of the most entertaining things you can talk about.
Of course.
But A Thief in the Night, my personal opinion, does it better than anybody else.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it didn't have like molds to follow. Like Christian movies love molds and love framework, right? And like this movie, I don't feel like there've been Christian movies before, but it's not the same at all. In fact, it's like this idea of like integrating something pretty terrifying into a movie just seemed pretty like an anomaly to the culture at the time, the Christian culture at least.
Closest point of comparison I can think of is, as Scott already mentioned them, but like, the Ormans are definitely, they also sort of had their finger on the pulse of like Christian exploitation.
Yeah, this is like a nicer version of the Ormans.
Yes.
It's just Perkle.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, not as much hellfire, but they do. It's from pretty early on in the movie, like to your point of comparison about like hardcore or like lower budget horror stuff of the era. Like after the first scene, like it's pretty clear that like nobody's safe.
Yeah,
and like you feel that for like probably the last 2/3 of the movie.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, well, the music setup. Right? I know we're going to talk about that, but like that whole music setup, I feel like it's like, I think I mentioned in my review, it's almost reminds me of like Tiny Tim. I like how like it's a song that like has like something uplifting, but you put it in just the wrong context. It's like just eerie as hell and super scary. And like just that I wish we've all been ready set up in the lecture. It's so ominous to me. It's uncanny, it's not traditionally scary. It's uncanny.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know if you were a DC Talk fan when DC Talk was actively putting stuff out, but that was the first time I heard that song, was their cover of I Wish We'd All Been Ready. And it was harrowing to me when I heard it.
Yeah, it's so spooky. So I forgot the name of the guy who wrote it. It wasn't this movie that actually was the first time that got it, but there's a very popular Christian guy. He's like one of the original like popular Christian musicians from like 60s and 70s. I think it was 1968 when the song was written. I got to look up that name.
Larry Norman.
Well, thank you. Yeah, him. Yeah, it's I don't know if I want to unload already, but like there's something so crazy to me. It's like, it's like sort of framed as in the same way as like a worship song might be played out. Like they're all sitting around. It's like a church service. And it's like, what is the song about? Like the focus of worship in that setting, it's like the downfall and the suffering of others. I don't know. It's just the way they framed that as this super Christian, almost worshiping thing. It's kind of crazy to me.
Right. Like we just sing this on repeat every Sunday.
I wanted to add just a little more info on Larry Norman because I found him, as a songwriter myself, and I found him very, very interesting. He was literally the album where this song came from. I Wish We'd All Been Ready. The album is called, God damn it, I just had it up. Something about a rock. It was in 1969. And it really is like the first Christian rock album ever. Mm-hmm. The Upon This Rock, that's his first important, culturally important album, although he was in several bands before that. But Upon This Rock, possibly the first Christian rock album ever, paving the way for all the CCM artists that we know and love, many of which have covered this song specifically, I Wish We'd All Been Ready. But how powerful to open this movie with, and almost, we're not too long after the fall of Flower Power, and the opening of this, which almost looks like a Godspell or like 60s or early 70s, like music television variety show type setup with this gloomy, grim song.
Was filled with guns and war, and everyone got trampled on the floor. I wish we'd all been ready. Children died, the days grew cold. A piece of bread could buy a bag of gold. I wish we'd all been ready. There's no time to change your mind. The sun
I feel like the 70s representation and aesthetic is just immaculate in this movie. It's just so perfect.
Yes.
It like reminds me of like the homes and stuff you'd see in like a Todd Sheets movie in like the 90s or something. You know, it's just like these lived in spaces. It's just like total ugly stuff that's out of style, not made to be pretty or on a set. It just got that so well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It almost feels very like Dogma 95, like they just straight up used people's interiors, but because it's such a singular aesthetic now, and because the film captures its colors so vividly, I do agree that it feels like you could see people trying to make a period piece now, like seething at how well this captured the era when all he was probably doing is like filming his church peers' living rooms, you know?
Yeah, and let me be the one to say, I kind of find that like girl with unkempt, natural hair, long hair is kind of sexy.
Mm-hmm.
You're being tempted.
And I know that is not what this movie was trying to elicit. I can guarantee, but I'm sorry it happened.
I've got to say, I found their two boyfriends they meet at the carnival. Both of them very sexy in different ways. Weirdly enough, the guy who, we're going to talk about this, of course, but the guy who gets bitten by a cobra, I don't know why this is, but when he like converts to Christianity, his like whole physiognomy like changed to me.
Yeah.
Like, he went from being like a 9 out of 10 to like a 7 out of 10. I was like, what's going on here? I was like,
that was the venom.
I was like, does Christianity make you like downwardly mobile? And I mean,
the venom gets you your attractiveness first.
It's the venom,
right? It's not the Christianity; it's the snake venom,
right? Yeah.
Real quick, speaking of the guy who got bit by the snake, just real quick. That was one of the funniest things was when he was talking to the priest and was like, how could God let me go through what I did? And I was like, dude, you got bit by a snake. It's not like, like you lost your loved ones or something. It's like you got bit by a fucking snake. It's not like
you're alive, dude.
It's not like God's testing you.
Dude. You got a good story to tell that I can't.
Yeah.
Come on.
Speaking of that, now that you guys are talking about the sexiness in this movie, do you think we could pay Wave Productions to make a Rapture movie, like a Rapture fetish movie?
Oh,
you could pay them to do anything.
That is a long-time dream of ours is to
crushed.
Commission.
But has that been
under
explored?
God's feet.
Yeah,
God is a woman, and she's gonna crush Earth under her giant feet.
But like, imagine
the end of days.
Yeah. Imagine this scenario. You're at youth group. Everyone gets raptured except you and your crush.
Oh.
Ooh.
You need to stop
it out
right
together.
there.
I was gonna say, keep talking. Take it.
Dude, if those perverts could figure out how to get him to make a movie, I'm sure one of you guys can.
Yeah, definitely. No, I've actually been in contact with them. I want to commission a music video from them, but it hasn't worked out yet. But maybe Boys Bible. They're absolutely on my short list of artists I want to commission. So I'll make it happen in the future. But yeah, there's obviously like a bunch of really compelling plot moments in A Thief in the Night that we are dying to talk about. We've teased already. Of course, as we said, it opens with, honestly sounds like doom metal at first. There's this like slow plodding drum solo that leads into the cover of Larry Norman's I Wish We'd All Been Ready. And pretty soon I guess I should start by saying we open, of course, with a young preacher, sort of maybe a teen preacher. And he is explaining to people the famous Bible story where the title of the movie comes from.
This is no joke. This is not a fairy tale. It will happen just as sure as you and I are here right now. So, Christian, be alert. And friend, if you haven't given your life to Christ, do it. And do it now, because the rapture will come and Christ will return. It says in the Bible that he will come as a thief in the night.
The idea that Jesus is coming is nigh, and as it says in the Bible, he will appear at a moment's notice, just like a thief in the night when we least expect it. And it's up to our characters to try to react to this new information that they've learned. And they all do in very different ways.
Yeah, some of them are a little open to learning more. Others immediately make jokes about it. Some are just completely indifferent, not paying attention. It's a fairly good spread of reactions, especially considering it's the first one of these movies.
There was a Ferris wheel.
Yeah, I like the jump straight from the church service into the full like carnival setting. I mean, I agree. That reminded me of there's this great like slasher carnival 70s film that I'm blanking on the name of now, that I watched with Woodrow, but it reminded me like exactly of that. But I do think there was something there. It was like going from the solemn grounds of the youth church service to the carnival, which kind of maybe represents like the distraction of worldly life.
There's that scary laughing that was playing. It was like a loop of like maybe like an animatronic laughing. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, it was like laughing and then the people screaming along with it. It kind of was like, end of days vibes, or people maybe in the lake of fire while the devil is laughing.
Oh, I'm thinking
it's like carnival noises.
I'm thinking of Tobe Hooper's Funhouse from 1981, and this really did give me like Tobe Hooper. I mean, we mentioned before, it kind of feels like that sort of rural slasher vibes, and I definitely put Hooper in that category. But yeah, it starts out like Funhouse. The young women who have just heard the message of the apocalypse are now in the world. They're in the carnival. They're riding on roller coasters. They are meeting, boys who are 10 years older than them. And
doing that.
Well, with awesome mustaches, though. At least one of them.
Yeah, I liked that guy. He was my favorite.
Yeah, Groucho Marx is hot.
Yeah. Yeah. Sexy Marx brother. And what are the girls' names? We could describe them because I know they.
One of them allegedly just took this job for money and then became a Christian afterwards and became a very rabid dispensationalist after.
A very rabid what?
Dispensationalist. That's the tribulation end times. Stuff.
Okay. I actually don't know that word.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll please trust me. I'm not trying to.
No. I mean, this is good. But so do you happen to remember which actress that was?
That was the lead. I'm already forgetting. They're all like Betty, whatever. Something like that. Something old fashioned. Yeah. The lead, the one with the black hair, pigtails, the cute.
Yes,
Veronica.
Patty is her name.
Yes.
No, Patty. Patty is the actress's name is also Patty. Patty Myers plays her, and it's her. She has like a slightly older friend, with long blonde hair, who just completely is rejecting the idea of the rapture, and is also doing things like, telling her about sex and sort of hinting that she has to like have sex with her new boyfriend in order to keep him around. But as a foil to them, there is a slightly younger girl whose name I don't remember. And she immediately flees from the Carnival of Souls. She goes back to the youth group to finish hearing the message of the rapture. And this leads into one of the biggest themes, I think, in the movie, which is basically that in order to be a good Christian, you can't just pick and choose Christianity. No cafeteria Christianity, okay?
No.
You can't. It's not just about, I love thy neighbor. Hey, I don't steal. I try to help people in need. But I'm not sure about this apocalypse, this mark of the beast thing.
Right.
Yeah. That's something very wrong with that.
Oh, some people get all strung out over things that don't even matter. I mean, I'm a Christian. You are? Well, not like he was pushing. I mean, I go to church about every week. I try to follow the 10 Commandments. I read my Bible once in a while, and I try and help people if they need it.
You're practically a missionary.
Well, what else is there?
Yeah, in fact, I don't know. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but the pastor, he doesn't get to go into the rapture because he didn't preach about the end of the world enough.
Yeah.
And he did everything else, as far as we know, everything a pastor does, except for just tell everyone you're going to be raptured and there's going to be suffering.
Right.
I was reading on the the legacy section on Wikipedia for this movie, which great resource if you want to learn something about a movie, but you don't want to like look that hard for information. It said that this I was doing some research on this movie, and I found that apparently this was, for a lot of people, the first time they saw a movie where you could be not Christian enough. And that was scary to a lot of kids.
I bet.
Yep.
Like that was very traumatizing to a lot of kids. Is the concept that you could go to church, say you're Christian, but it's still not good enough to get into heaven.
Yes.
Yeah. And that kind of peaked in like the late 90s too, that line of thinking of like people having like real trauma and like horrible anxiety over that. And to the point where people are like, why would I even focus on going to college? Jesus is coming back at any moment. Like all I can think about is this.
Well, I mean, again, not trying to jump too far ahead, but the little girl in this movie, like Patty's her name, I found out, but her little sister, little girl, she's like having like panic attacks every time her mother leaves the room because she thinks she's been raptured and she got left behind. And they're like, yeah, that's good. You need to think about this.
Yeah. No, it's true. Like right in the movie, there's there's like an analog for this idea of like, rapture based religious trauma. There's literally a little girl in the movie who might be on the younger side of the people watching this movie, receiving this message. They can see themselves in this little girl. She hears about it. She goes home. She doesn't know where her mom is, and she starts screaming and crying. She thinks her mom's been raptured. And we find out in the logic of the movie, this is a good thing. Yes. And this can lead to young people having a real feeling of fear that is, in the logic of this movie, healthy and leads to them genuinely accepting Jesus into their hearts.
Yeah.
Right.
You got to stay woke.
You got to stay woke.
The rapture, being woke about the rapture.
Yeah. Listen, he's coming like a thief in the night, y'all. Sleep with one eye open.
Yeah.
And there's been lots of discussions. I've seen this just like on the internet among people who refer to themselves as like deconstructionists or just anyone online, to which to some extent I would even include our podcast, of people who are sort of going through a lifetime of maybe religious, you could call it propaganda or whatever, and trying to and sort of coming to terms. Some people do feel very traumatized by learning about the rapture, and my message to them: grow up. The rapture is coming. Be scared,
please.
Yeah.
You're gonna have some religious trauma when you're burning in the lake of fire for all eternity. That's all I can tell you. So,
or when the Unite ID Center is coming after you.
Yeah, we definitely gotta talk about that.
Okay, I don't want to like brag or like I don't have like some anon Twitter account or anything like that, but I did get my undergrad in biblical studies, and I actually wrote my final paper on Revelations. So I got a couple of hot takes. I don't know. It might destroy all of these end of the world movies a little bit for everyone.
Spill.
Yeah. Okay. So
this is like telling us Santa's not real.
Yeah. Please. All right. So, Revelations is written in a type of literature that was known to the culture of the time. Okay. It's apocalyptic literature. Pagans wrote that way sometimes. It was a type of poetry, so to speak. A very, very elaborate limerick, if you will. Okay, and I'm not trying to say that it's all like there's arguments about how literal and how figurative different things are, but I'm just going to say right now, I strongly believe that all the symbology and symbolism, I should say, it's interpretable by the cultural standards. Okay, like the book of Daniel did some apocalyptic literature stuff. Ezekiel, it's in places. It's not this like esoteric thing exactly. It's a literary thing, and like
Yes.
I am going to strongly suggest that it is about the fall of Rome in 70 AD, which was about the time when I believe it was written. And if I would almost go as far to say that the whole point of the book is to say that you're not supposed to be worrying about the end of the world, and that there's a divine intention behind it, and that most of the events described in Revelations have already happened. It does to talk a little bit about the end of the world, and this is just my opinion, but it is a somewhat scholarly one.
Yeah, no, I mean, that tracks to me. Scott said this on the show before, and Jacob, you would say that Revelations, as far as I heard, it's one of the. I mean, not only is it the final book of the Bible, it was also the newest of all the books.
It's the most recent. Yeah, it almost wasn't
the most recent,
canonized. Doing our argument
by
about
like
that.
several centuries, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wasn't it added a few cent? Yeah, okay. Do you know how far apart it was added into the Bible?
Oh gosh!
Compared to the next book?
This is like about 10 years ago. I need to read more.
Yeah,
it was something around the year 300-ish or something like that.
I heard it's because the writers went on strike.
Yes. The Hebrews did not get their SNL that week, dude.
Yeah.
And
it's. Yeah.
I'm sorry. One more detail that's important is like this whole 666 thing. It's like, again, it's like this numerology and matching letters with numbers. Again, it's extremely common literary device of the time. And that you break it down. I wish I could break it down in details, but I think it'll be boring. But like the end of it, it's like the traditional interpretation with their numerology is it spells Kaiser Nero, which was the reigning emperor at the time who was like killing Christians ruthlessly. So it's like the number of the beast. It's just that simple.
Yeah, right. I mean, that would have been Kaiser Nero would have then been someone who was obviously a very reviled enemy of Christianity. And maybe I don't know my history about this, but like, yeah, maybe having a metaphor of the fall of Rome. And, there's this guy who's heading Rome, who's a strong enemy of Christians. I mean, I would see that being a very, climactic.
I mean, the attitude was of like great despair. Like the Christians at the time were thinking like we're like really everything that we were promised and prophesied for, it's going to go extinct here pretty soon. Like everyone hates us. So, and that was the attitude I believe Revelations was there to address. There's like a sense of final victory to the whole thing.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, I never knew that part of the story.
That's
maybe
my
if
take.
they just sure. Well, what I want to say is maybe if they started making movies earlier, then they wouldn't have had to worry so much because their movies. I mean, everyone loves their movies now.
Yeah.
So I would have if I could go back in time, to the Christians of 300 AD, I would say, listen, book is fine, film lasts forever.
Please.
Yeah. So, consider this.
Put the scroll down and watch this Pasolini, the Gospel according to St. Matthew.
Yeah.
Totally. Wait, while we're on the scholarly tip, though, can we jump ahead to when the book of Revelation turned back into the ultimate doomsday prophecy book that we should focus on more than the rest of the Bible?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. There is talk in this movie, and I mean, we already sort of mentioned this, but like that churches are not preaching this. And this is something that is being very left out. I remember at some point about halfway through the movie, there's a couple characters just kind of mentioning to themselves, like, I've never heard this before. Like my church never preached this.
Well, I don't know if all that's true or not, but if it really is in the Bible, then why doesn't our minister ever talk about it?
I find hard to believe, only maybe because now we're so inundated in it that it's like hard to imagine that was ever the case. But Jacob, was there like I know in your review on Letterboxd you spoke a little about this, but like can you speak anything about the trends toward like Christian eschatology? Like was there like did this become popular at a certain time that you know about?
Oh yeah. It's like, to me, like, I gotta read more books about it, but it's like American Christianity is so fascinating to me. Like, there's really nothing else like it. It is like, because the bottom line is there's many different groups of people who didn't want to be Anglican, mainly in England and whatnot, and they wanted to basically start their own little theocracy, like a commune, so to speak. And so, like, that was like a lot of these immigrants, that's what they came here for. They all came here to start like mini little theocracies. And so, like, it's like a pretty weird way for doctrine to grow, in my opinion. And it's just like, and I don't want to get too like polemic on here, but it's like, there's a sense of like Protestantism where, the churches are usually, you have denominations, but even within that, like, they're very pastor led. It's like kind of a cult of personality in a sense. I don't mean that super pejoratively, but it's like my personality matches this pastor's personality the most. And so that's kind of where that draw comes from. And you kind of get these, these kind of intense echo chambers sometimes. And also they were so hung up on their theological differences. Like, they were just like obsessed with like their minor thing. It's like a comparison would be like Pentecostals and their focus on like speaking in tongues to some where they're like you're literally not saved unless you're speaking in tongues, because that must mean you don't have the Holy Spirit. It's like these like they're just like why do you care so much? Like and like there's many different thinkers, but there's Darby, Nelson Darby. I'm trying to think of his full name. He was a big theologian of like the Plymouth Brethren. They were, again, kind of one of those groups that wanted to start a theocracy. And he was, in my opinion, like pretty neurotic futurist, just like very obsessed with the future, as some people are. And he really rewrote theology in like a very dramatic way. And this is like the late 1800s. So not that long ago. I don't think people realize this. Like, I think they take for granted that, oh yeah, Christians believe in like the rapture and the end of the world and like this like suffering and hellfire. And it's really like 100-year-old theology in a certain sense. So he kind of started it. And they also, they wrote the Schofield Bible, which was this widely circulated for a while, which had a commentary. That was huge, because that was like the first time I was like, that's like the most unabashed, like pinpointed, like, this is what you're supposed to be reading in the Bible. It was pretty hardcore. So people just became really radical. The term would be like dispensationalist or premillennialist. It's like these different kind of hodgepodge of terms. But yeah, they made it huge. They went big on that.
Yeah, this is literally, I love America so much. Like, we live in the greatest country in the world. This is our blessing and our curse. Like, this is what makes us so unique and so beautiful and so horrible, is that we are a personality driven culture. Our biggest export is personality. Like, we have it in droves. And yeah, everything is like, as you said, the idea of like, I'm going to pick a pastor or a denomination because like I relate to this, my individual sense that is then being expressed by this person I see as more like, powerful or charismatic than me. And, then it's these like warring sort of cults with each other. And then we see what takes hold. And now it's impossible to imagine Christianity without these very, very recent, personality developments in it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating. I mean, it's just endless research. It's so fun.
Yeah. And, that combined with the fact that, again, films, Hollywood is another one of America's biggest cultural exports. And I mean, the many DIY independent people making Christian cinema in reaction to or opposition to or just parallel to Hollywood. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just think it's literally are the two things America's best at, movies and Christianity. We're so good. Let's go 4 more years. Yeah. And yeah, what else? We've done now, just as a podcast, we talked about Left Behind. I mean, I would think that like A Thief in the Night is like Left Behind, but better, basically. And we've seen a bunch of different filmmakers recreate this very popular idea of the mark of the beast, the antichrist, the political leader.
A little tidbit.
Yes.
Left Behind is named after the song from this movie.
Really?
Yeah,
It's
that's what I
taken
saw.
from I Wish We'd All Been Ready.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So I saw on Wikipedia. Great resource.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Sort of the Schofield Bible of its time, Wikipedia. But how did this movie particularly cover these key end of the world topics? The one world government, the mark of the beast, the antichrist. What is a Thief in the Night's take on these things?
Well, they convince people to get this mark on either their foreheads or the back of their hand by basically saying that you're being a patriot if you're doing it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, we're rebuilding society after the rapture has taken place.
Yes.
I want to know how do some people decide? I would go back a hand.
Almost everyone would go back the hand. There was that one man in the movie who said,
like an old man who was like, "Yeah, put it right there, stick it right there, right in the middle of the forehead.
Well, put it smack dab between my eyes."
Yeah. I want everybody to know.
Put it right there. I'm not afraid to be a good citizen.
Name,
Ernie Gebhard,
address,
1334 East Oak Park,
zone.
Zone 50.
Yeah. Well, face tattoos are very popular now.
You know, people would do that with like the Punisher logo, though, right now.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What if Joe Biden said you had to get a tattoo of the Punisher logo somewhere on your body?
He'd be reelected now.
He would
right
be
now,
elected
early.
dictator.
Yeah.
That would be so sick.
So I'd ask for a waiver to get a tramp stamp.
Yeah, that's in the law. Yeah,
If you like your tramp stamp, you can keep it.
Yeah, we do have the classic 666 tattoo. I really enjoyed the aesthetic of it in this movie.
Yeah.
It looked pretty
The
cool.
binary.
Yes. Yeah, it was a binary printout of the number 666 that no one seemed to put together other than Patty. And we have a really cool fascist paramilitary organization. I loved what are fascists good at? Aesthetics.
Yep.
I loved the aesthetics of
And
Unite.
making the trains run on time.
And the trains. And I guess, we didn't really get to see a lot of trains in this movie. I'm going to assume they were on time.
ran, yeah.
The helicopters certainly were.
Yes.
I don't know about the trains.
Well, this is after
but-
the 50s in America, so the trains are mostly gone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There were no more trains for the fascists to make them run on time,
Yeah.
which is sad.
And public transit employees famously are godless.
Right.
Yes.
Well, we do have this Unite is the government organization that is making sure everybody got the jab.
Yep.
Yeah, in a certain sense, I want to say like this moment, like the transition was so fast. It's like it feels almost like symbolic to me of like a cultural change in like Christian media, or it's like in the beginning, it's just like this childish, almost infantile Brady Bunch type stuff, and then it just totally shifts into this like John Carpenter, like military occupation stuff, and then it just like. It feels symbolic of what's to come with Christian movies in my mind.
Yeah.
That's so true. That's so true. And it's made even more uncanny by the fact that the movie intentionally does these false embedded endings a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
We see characters waking up from dreams that lead into dreams that lead into dreams. And, spoiler alert, we do find out in the end of the movie that this is no dream. This is real. It takes us a couple cycles to get there. But I think that also contributed to the very, unrelenting, dark energy of this movie. It was just always playing with your sense of reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the sound was kind of weird. Like, it's like kind of oddly silent at times. And then with maybe like no footsteps like you'd think you'd be hearing with just like background music. It's less like Lynchian or whatever. I hate to use that term.
No, yeah.
I wish there was more of the fascist state. Really only felt like it was like 15 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's more to come in the next movie though.
Yeah. It seems like they could have dramatically reduced the build up to the end of times.
The preaching.
Yeah. I will say, now we've said this before with regards to Left Behind. I got to say, watching this movie, I really was like, I mean, the COVID vaccine was just the mark of the beast. Like, I'm like straight up convinced now. Like, before I was sort of like toying it. And listen, I took the mark, like you know, but watching it, I was like, when they had signs in the businesses that were like, you know, only citizens permitted, meaning only if you've received the mark. I was like, this is like when I couldn't go to raves if I didn't have the. This is like why I got a vaccine so I could go to raves.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I mean, it really just got me this time. I was like, damn, no fucking wonder people thought that the COVID vaccine was demonic in the mark of the beast. How could you not?
It is really funny how terrible. Like if the goal was to convince people to get the vaccine, like they could not have done a worse job of making it look like you were getting the mark of the beast.
Exactly like the mark of the beast. Just straight up.
Jacob, did you see the new Left Behind movie?
You know, I haven't yet. I'm so caught up in the 60s right now, man. It's my summer vibes. Honestly, this movie was my summer vibes. Like, I'm so about this. Like, I want the rivers and like no bras. Well, I don't know if they're probably wearing bras, but like no makeup. I want all of that right now. And this summer, it's August. Give me 30 more days, baby.
Some could say bras are the mark of the beast.
Dude, take them off.
You cannot enter here if you're not wearing a bra.
Right. When 7-Eleven says no shirt, no shoes, no service, that's sort of the mark of the beast right there. Yeah. Wearing a shirt's kind of like the mark of the beast.
Tell my wife that. She doesn't buy it.
When it says no smoking near a gas pump.
Yeah,
that's kind of the mark of the beast.
Exactly. It's the mark of the beast. True. It's also the nanny state and the longhouse. It's all these things.
And the pod.
And the pod, which we live in.
Yeah.
But
The reason I brought up the new Left Behind, though, is just that because they do directly make the comparison to getting vaccinated and end time stuff.
Yeah. Well, Christian movies have always been on top of it. Like, I feel like I wish I could name them off the top of my head, but I feel like I watched like 3 or 4 movies pre-COVID that are all saying it's going to be an injection, the mark of the beast.
Yeah.
Wow. Come on. The Holy Spirit knows what's up.
But it really does. I feel like, I don't know, it'll be interesting to see more Rapture movies post-COVID because the new Left Behind was so confused.
Yes.
Where they were like, the Rapture and the Mark of the Beast is coming, but it also already happened with coronavirus. And like they made the mistake of making coronavirus exist in that movie separately from the Rapture.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of weird to do like after it's like, as far as we know, over.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was very, very strange, coupled with the fact that there's, absolutely no aesthetics whatsoever. It was very dark. It reminded me of being on a Zoom call. Now, granted, I'm very much enjoying our Zoom call right now, but it reminded me of being on a Zoom call, whereas A Thief in the Night, as you said, there's something so vital about it. There's something, there's color, there's life, there's like even a sense of like, you know, blooming sexuality, although the film is not, you know, really about that, but it does mention it. It feels there's blood pumping through it.
Yeah,
you know
what I
mean?
Vaping.
No one's vaping. They're just living in the moment. You know, it's beautiful.
What is the what if everybody was getting the mark of the beast? I think I would just get it too.
Okay,
Julian.
I guess I don't really think about the, hot take.
Okay.
But I would get the mark of the beast. I mean, I got the COVID vaccine. I like cut in front of a bunch of old people at the nursing home that was giving it out.
Right.
Like 6 months before it was released to everybody.
I went with you.
Yeah.
No, we were early adopters of the mark of the beast.
I'm misrepresenting. We did not cut in front of a bunch of old people. Declined taking the vaccine, and they had to get rid of them at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's Julian and I got pretty early vaccines on account of they had surplus of the ones that were rationed for anyway.
Yeah,
you weren't cutting in front of them; they were just moving really slowly.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just know I never understand the thing in like Christian movies where they're like, do you think God can't fucking read your mind? Like God's gonna be like, oh, you shouldn't have lied and said you shouldn't have gotten that mark of the beast because you were supposed to go walking around saying that you're Christian, even though they were gonna kill you. I guess that's part of the whole thing, right?
Well,
to be willing to die for Christianity.
Right, but this is something that's interesting about rapture theology, which we've talked about bits here and there, but it's funny because the rapture seems to mark a phase in God's love for humanity where all of a sudden the rapture happens and then it's no givesies backsies. Like we know as Christians that if we make a mistake, if we sin, which we do every day, every single day, we all sin in our hearts.
Speak for yourself, buddy.
Okay. But we can ask forgiveness. And if we do that with sincerity, we will be forgiven. Suddenly the rapture happens.
Yeah.
And if you get the mark of the beast, which again, you're being coerced to get by many sources, you're being lied to by the government as to what it really is. And you're also being coerced very strongly into getting into it. If you get the mark of the beast, this is not something that you can ask forgiveness for.
Why not? I could get a tattoo removed.
Right. This is what I want to know. I'm curious to know. I guess it's just that transition from the return of Jesus, but it does seem like after the return of Jesus that there's very little chance of you to get saved.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like a pre-run for the final judgment. Just like a little lube up.
Right. I just refuse to be the pawn in this little game between God and the devil of counting souls. I'm above that.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna do me. I'll side with whoever wins at the end.
Yeah.
Come get me. Spirit. Yeah. How about I get the mark of the beast and I keep reading the Bible?
Wow.
Huh?
Yeah.
I'll play both sides.
Do you think that somebody would surely be selling like unmarkings or whatever? They would be like selling the fact that they could like unmark you officially and you get into heaven, right?
It's like a belt sander.
Oh yeah, that's a good. Oh, that would be such a good like plot line in like a Left Behind movie. It's like the guy who's like, "Oh, we got to go down this alleyway and get your marks removed or whatever."
That's so cool.
We're just
like
be
in
some
Minority Report when he goes to the
buck.
guy. Yeah, remember in Minority Report where he goes to the guy who replaces his eyeballs?
Yeah.
It should be like that.
Transplant. Yeah, that's such a good idea.
They never show like the rest of the world in these movies.
Yeah, it's just Iowa. Iowa got fucked, dude.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess there was that one, the Tim Che. That was the movie.
Tim Che, to God.
They were in like Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
In that one movie.
Gone.
But
That's
we never see like, Muslims or Buddhists or Hindu followers.
Yeah.
Well,
or Russian Orthodox.
If they do show them, you usually wish they didn't.
Right. Exactly. Like, first question.
That is true.
First question.
Maybe,
do we want to see that?
Maybe we're better off not saying that. But I'm just curious because they're always like, "Oh, so many people are gone," and it's like, it wouldn't be that many people.
Yeah, there's still
the Omega Code did that a little bit. I thought it was pretty crazy. I made a note of it because it was like, I'm pretty sure what they did is they went to Africa and filmed a Christian gathering. So you have a bunch of people like jumping and like kind of holding their hands out towards like the person on stage. And then in the movie, they reframed it where it's like they're following the Antichrist. And like, I don't think those people knew they were doing that.
That's so funny. That's like on after January 6th, where they were like, everybody's like, yeah, go storm the Capitol. And then afterwards, like Kevin Sorbo and all these people were like, those were all Antifa. Imagine getting home and checking your Twitter feed for your favorite.
Oh, man, they're calling me Antifa.
The hell?
Oh, man. I'm not Antifa.
Hey, I wasn't following the Antichrist. You told me this was a church service.
Right. Yeah. So, this film obviously probably, in my opinion, set the standard for how these pop cultural elements of the rapture would be covered in Christian films. And, there's so much in this movie. It's not that we have to, turn over every rock about it, but I do want to go back a little bit in the movie and talk about the snake bite incident, because like I think that's so crucial to the metaphor they set up about Jesus' redemption. And it's also just a crazy fucking arc for a Christian movie. I have never seen anything like this in a Christian film.
Yeah, can somebody remind me under what? I feel like I looked away for a second, and all of a sudden, a guy was bit by a viper.
Yeah,
Des Moines,
that's what
Iowa.
happened.
Straight up.
But it was like an Indian. It was like from India, wasn't it?
Yes, she fell in love with a guy who works at the zoo.
Oh,
He worked at the zoo.
that was kind of what Adam's job was in the Old Testament.
Aha. I think there's something there.
Okay.
So
Hey.
like the two boys that these girls meet at the carnival, they're best friends. They are a zoo attendant and an ambulance attendant, which makes it very ironic when the zoo attendant gets bit by an Indian cobra, and then he is being comforted in the back of an ambulance by his friend, who happens to be Des Moines' only ambulance chaser. So just interesting how these people can be brought together.
Yeah. There's only like
and
6
they bring
people
up his
in Des Moines.
occupation, and the girl's like, "Ew." I don't know why.
Right. Yeah. That's like literally the hottest thing a guy can be. He plays with exotic animals all day. Come on.
Yeah.
You know, in the future, he'll have a TikTok account with like 5 million followers where he like plays with koalas and stuff and probably gets infinite pussy. But, you know, right now he lives, there's no
Exotic
TikTok.
pussy,
He lives
too.
But right now he lives in Iowa and gets bitten by an Indian cobra that he forgot to lock the door.
Idiot.
of.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up. I'm sorry, I just want to say this real quick. I'm glad you brought him up because it finally occurred to me is that he looks like a little more handsome George Stover. He's that guy who's in those Don Dohler movies, if you've seen those. Kind of looks like an adult baby. If you haven't seen him, it's a little lost, but look it up. I think you'll see it.
What was his name?
George Stover, Stover.
So we're all feverishly.
No, I'm sorry. I'm derailing.
No, this is great. This is great.
Our last guest brought up Don Dohler too. We're doing a good job.
Yeah,
who
his movies are good if you haven't seen them.
That's awesome. These things happen to us where, like, all of a sudden there'll be one name of a man who no one has ever spoken about publicly except for the 2 last people we've talked to, and then all of a sudden we have to get into him. But yeah,
we're coming together.
Well, these look sick.
Yeah, these look awesome.
Yes, George Stover. I do know that face.
Vibes.
No stopping the Stover.
Yeah, this guy looked like if George Stover got bitten by a cobra and
survived,
rode a horse a couple times. He ends up going to the hospital, and they set up this elaborate metaphor for Jesus' redemption, which is that there is a man who lives somewhere else, we're not sure exactly where, who has apparently been bitten by so many cobras that his body is a living antidote to cobra venom.
What are you going to do? Is he going to die?
Well, there's very little time, but we're hoping that a blood transfusion will provide the necessary antidote. Now, we've gotten a hold of a man who owns a large snake farm who's been bitten several times by cobras. His blood has built up the necessary antibodies to fight this kind of poison.
Yeah, but how long will that take?
We watch him running, getting escorted from plane to train to automobile. This man who has somehow just been bitten by so many snakes, and he is being rushed to the hospital where our male lead is lying unconscious, waiting to receive his blood in order to live again. Sound familiar?
Like the Christ story, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Jesus famously bitten by a bunch of snakes.
Right.
In the desert.
Right. But here's what I want to know. How are you as a man going to receive blood from another man?
This is before the CIA did the AIDS thing.
It's not gay unless you give it out.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're
not gay unless you enjoy it.
Right. But
I really like how the doctor delivered the news after that. He just like kind of stepped out and like kind of like a long shot of it, just kind of steps out. It's like, well, he's going to be okay now. Just like walks off to the side.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with that
That was
type
a really
of
intense scene.
I'm obsessed with that 70s sort of like bluntness with it. I mean, there really is something to be said with the fact that we really decorate everything with like flowery language now.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, this is also true of All the King's Horses, the movie we watched last week. But remember when they were just telling that guy like, by the way, you are a lowlife, so make sure you come to church late and sit in the back.
Yeah.
Like that's just something that you wouldn't say to people anymore. Like even people that you considered undesirable. You gotta love that like that 70s bluntness. We'll never get that back.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's like magnified by people like Donald W. Thompson or Estes Perkle. You know, what sort of dialogue they're gonna write.
That's a good point.
Well, but I mean, I still agree with you, though. I mean, it's just like drawn out to the extreme.
Yeah, no, right, but yeah, no, they clearly just internally have that sensibility to them. But I do think in general in 70s media, it comes across compared to language we would use nowadays. But yeah, they're literally flying in a guy with snake blood. Not to mention the snake in general, a very potent biblical reference. And as Julian said, I mean, we see a young man who is tending to the animals, just as God said we were allowed to do in the book of Genesis.
He said that's the only thing you should do.
Right.
Really. Why have we strayed from that?
That's a really good point.
He said that's your whole job here.
Yeah. He said, how are you as a man going to eat from the tree of life? Seems kind of sus. And similar to the story of Adam and Eve, he has now married Patty, who he met at the carnival.
Awesome montage.
Oh, it was so cute.
Really cool montage, yeah.
Yeah, the Ken Burns documentary about their completely sexless marriage. I love when they were playing checkers in front of like the unlit fireplace. The two of them.
I wrote in my notes, smiling at husband on the phone. I remember that from the montage.
He's on the phone with his bookie.
Right. He's saying, bet you can't be bit by another snake. But similar to the story of Adam and Eve, we have a godly man, and we have a woman who is not listening to God. Okay.
Yeah.
Because despite her husband's conversion post snake bite survival, she simply refuses to accept the story of the rapture. Even if she goes to church, does all these things, she doesn't buy the rapture.
She's there. She's right there when her husband accepts Christ.
That's true.
With the pastor.
She looks like
that's
disappointed.
The scene where he says, how could God put me through this?
Right.
It's like, dude, you got bit by a snake and you were like totally fine the next day.
Yeah.
Like nothing happened.
Yeah.
And you work with fucking exotic animals.
Right.
What did you think was going to happen? Certainly had to be in the back of your mind that one of these could bite me one of these days.
Yeah.
So maybe you should have locked the cage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's maybe don't work with snakes all the time. Like if you were just in church minding your own business and then a venomous snake bite you, then that would be a good time to question why God would let this happen.
Right.
Unless it's a snake bite church. Then
that's a good point.
You're there. Yeah.
Very good point. This was the same pastor though that he converts with that says from our studies these past few weeks we've discovered that we're living in end times.
Yeah. Great quote.
Figured it out.
Well, from our studies of the past few weeks, we can conclude that we're living now in the end times. The days in which we live are seeing many prophecies being fulfilled that we have never seen fulfilled before.
Great quote. Yeah, they were doing some studies. You know, they were taking some soil samples. They were reading some various newspapers, and they found they were living in the end times. Yeah, what are some other sort of miscellaneous like quotes and moments from this movie that we found very enjoyable? I will start by saying I did enjoy that there was a motif of people taking off their pajama tops, and that was why other people thought the rapture had. Like she tells a story of a woman who thought the rapture had taken place because her husband had taken off his pajama tops and left it in the bed. And then later on in the movie, like her husband, you know, the snakebite guy, he like does that at some point. It's not not a lot comes from that, but like there sort of becomes this metaphor of like guys taking off their shirts, or this motif, I should say. There's a lot of interesting like visual motif.
People are very on edge.
Yes,
it's a dog whistle.
They saw a sock outside of the laundry hamper and they thought somebody had been raptured.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I noticed it in this movie. I mean, it's obviously in like most of these Christian movies, but like just the faces people make when they're being evangelized to, it's like they just immediately revert to like childhood. They're just like, it's like, how does Patty have never heard the story of Jesus dying on the cross? She's like, wow, that's so unfair. It's like, come on. It's like they always just like have these conversations play out exactly the way they wanted to. It's like the only way they're going to make it happen. We got to put it on film.
Yes.
After having a very interesting audience seeing the Barbie movie the other week, I firmly believe that people genuinely have that reaction all the time. We just don't see it because we're in our little bubbles. I saw a person respond to an ad for a slot machine app by basically announcing to the theater, I'm not downloading that app. As if like the theater was talking to her.
You said people were just talking in full voice the entire movie.
People were just communicating at full volume, sometimes raising their voices to speak over the movie to each other.
The only thing I wanted to mention, I totally missed the opportunity, but Russ Doughton, the guy who, the Mark IV guy who partnered with him.
Yeah.
I did want to bring up how he produced The Blob with, did you all know about this?
He did?
With the Good News. Yeah, with Good News.
I saw that.
That's like basically, without realizing, that's a canon Christian movie, because there's a little like commune. They bought this property and they called themselves Good News Productions, and Russ was one of them. And they got a deal to make The Blob, and they made it. And then they made like a handful of other cheeky like Mark IV style films.
Holy shit.
But, yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool connection.
Yeah, we have to mention that. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I had never known about the Blob connection. So it just goes to show you, like, God is capable of influencing human life in so many wonderful, multifaceted ways.
Yeah.
And, you know, A Thief in the Night, in my opinion, perfect, like, just, you know, I should say, like, just like a pinnacle of the American tradition of both cult of personality and filmmaking.
Yes.
All of the American virtues wrapped up into one. Maybe in some ways, to some people, this could be the ultimate Christian film. You know, the best, of course, is subjective, but this really has got to be in like the top 5, at least top 10, like most important American Christian films.
Just so influential. I mean, influential for the theology, even.
Yeah,
right.
Like tons of people who are not like premillennial, like rapture people, were watching this movie because it was just a Christian movie. Like,
right.
Like it spread big time.
Yeah, and also like that's the nature of pop culture, especially as we like are hurtling more and more into like just these self-referential times. But then, you know, theology becomes blended into pop culture, and then pop culture becomes theology. All of a sudden, that's everybody's primary source for hearing these messages. And, you know, the internet really compounds that because we have access to now all of these artifacts of culture that people can just kind of like, you know, create their own personal echo chambers of consuming and develop their own thoughts that way. So, you know, these are our books of the Bible now. And I definitely think that, I think A Thief in the Night is something that was like, you know, inspired by a certain theology and now has become pop cultural theology to the point where it's almost hard to imagine Christian filmmaking before it. Good ass movie.
should we be grateful? I think so.
Yeah, I feel like we got no other choice, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it's
they
there.
paved the way for Elijah's secret, right?
Yeah,
you got
very
me
true.
there. I can guarantee you, I'll never be a freaking Jesuit. No matter how much they pay me.
Yeah,
I will never be a Jesuit.
You know, I got to tell you something hilarious about that. It's
people,
like
though.
they're like targeting Jesuits, and I think I kind of understand why. But Jesuits are known in the Catholic world as like the total liberal, like just like open to anything and don't really care about stuff, and like not like following the Pope's rules. Like
wow,
like that's kind of the I don't know, the stereotype in the Catholic world. So it's just so funny how they pick just Jesuits as their like.
Yeah, Jesuits, they're the libs of the Catholic world, and they're also literally like hiding in the bushes waiting to intercept you on your way to mass so they can like swap clothes with you hitman style and then take over the clergy of your church.
Literally how conservatives view liberals.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
As like impotent, ineffectual, essentially genderless losers who are also like deadly conniving pedophile stalkers.
Right.
With great taste in music.
Yeah, well, we do have that. I would say I'm not all of those things. I'm maybe like 6 of those things you mentioned.
Yeah,
I'm not impotent.
No,
I'm all the other things though.
Right, boys.
Yeah, right. Am I right, boys? Come on. Well, I think now we've got an opportunity to talk about this very important movie. It's time for us to answer this question for the culture. What do we, Boys Bible Study, Wormy, what's the official rating of A Thief in the Night, 1972?
Well, 10 damn souls out of 10 for sure.
Woo.
Can't go wrong.
10 out of 10 souls couldn't be wrong.
No.
I got to give it 0110 out of 0110. Or
don't say
circle,
that.
line, circle.
Yeah.
I looked up binary for 6, and that is not what that.
Oh, okay.
I really loved it. Got a shout out to the really old lady who was in charge of guarding all the prisoners.
I loved her.
Who was foiled by a mere push. And much too slow to chase after our heroine as she escaped.
She's like, that doesn't look like a 6, does it?
Yeah, it was so funny watching that lady beat the guard. I was like,
she was one of the first
escape
people
out of this prison so fast.
She was one of the first people who took the mark. We had to put her somewhere.
Yeah. Talk about a freaking gerontocracy, am I right?
Mm-hmm. I particularly enjoyed the moment when the pastor who is not raptured is bemoaning the fact that he isn't, but also admits that he had the mark in his heart before the marks were ever happening. And then one of our new fascist leaders steps in and says, that's not good enough, and takes him away. Not understanding what he's saying. And I really love this movie. It's extremely powerful and important, and looks great too. And that is why I'm going to have to give it many venomous snakes out of many venomous snakes.
Ooh, baby. Ooh. It don't get much better than that, folks. As for me, I very much enjoyed A Thief in the Night. Glad to have finally seen it, formally reviewed it for the show. And there's multiple in this series. There were sequels and continuations of this that Mark IV Pictures made, which I'm sure we are contractually compelled to check out in the near future. So we shall. Gonna have to give this one 6 out of 6 members of 6 out of 6 committees of the Imperium, y'all. Because I trust the Imperium. Okay, in this house, we believe the Imperium. And, for this momentary state of emergency that we are in, we can trust them to lead us. Oh, not to prolong the discussion of the plot of this movie, but I thought it was awesome how Patty gets betrayed by her former friends at the end of the movie. That's such a sick climax.
Yeah. Straight out of 1984.
Yeah, especially because earlier in the movie, a little callback here, that guy, the hot guy with the handlebar mustache, he says, "I am the Antichrist." Really briefly, when they're sitting around at Bible study, he makes a joke about he himself being the Antichrist.
Yeah. And she says, "I really like a beast."
The mark of the beast is talked about, Patty. It's probably some kind of identification mark based on the number 666. It says in the Bible that people won't be able to buy or sell anything without it. Kind of a super evil credit card, only it'll be on your hand or forehead.
I wouldn't let anybody tattoo my forehead.
Diane, you don't even have to be around when it happens.
Yes, you do.
Do I?
Sure, because, I like you, sweetheart. Can't you see that? And I am the Antichrist.
Good. I was always a sucker for beasts.
Yeah.
That's what carnivals do to you.
They really do.
I now see the benefit of getting the mark of the beast on your forehead as opposed to your hand, because that would have been a less exciting reveal if we had to wait for her to notice the guy's hand.
Right. Yeah. But I'm glad we all got to experience this movie, and we are very grateful to have our friend Wormy, aka Jacob, on the pod.
Sir.
So thank you for spending the time with us.
Yeah,
tonight.
thank you for the invite. Love y'all.
Yeah, likewise. And where do you should people follow you on YouTube, on Letterboxd? Would you dox yourself to your personal level of comfort so people can stalk you online?
Depends on if you're hot, dude.
Yeah, if you're hot, you can follow. If you're hot, you can follow me here. If you're not hot,
I got my Snapchat.
Yeah, right.
I do have a YouTube channel, just a little fun project. It's called Sludge Surfer. Just to kind of review movies. It's and it's fun. I like to pick out weird movies. So that's what brought us all here together. So check that out. And in Letterboxd, I don't know, I'm Wormy on there. That's why I'm being called Wormy. So there's that. But I'm just floating around, a ghost in the wind. Otherwise,
hell yeah. No, that's what the internet's all about. But we're very, very happy to have had you. And as usual, the end of our show, as I say, if this is your first time here, please go to boysbiblestudy.com to check out all of our public episodes. And if you really like what we do and want to support, patreon.com/boysbiblestudy. Because if you want BBS episodes every week, all you have to do is sign up there for a $5 pledge per month or more. And we'll give you those. Shout out especially to our patrons at the $20 tier, Nicole, Marissa, Jeff, Kara, and Rhett. Really appreciate your generosity. And our outro music is Oh My God by Mary. So from all of us here at Boys Bible Study, myself, Ash, my co-hosts, Scott and Julian, our guest today, Wormy, we would like to say, peace be with you.
And also with your spirit.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I feel your love in me, it's coming from within. Oh my God, my devotion is so unwavering. Divine emotions when you enter me. Every day you take